Depending on your specific workflow, you might find it useful to run the audio analysis directly from the Windows command line, carrying out the entire process in a single go, instead of using the graphical interface. Let's take a look at how you can do that. Now, this lesson assumes you have some familiarity with the Windows command prompt. We won't be using any complex commands or syntax, but you should at least be able to tell what your current folder is and how to reference a file by its absolute or relative path. The first thing we need to do is find the EasyTitle6 executable file. Its default location is in Program Files x86, EasyTitles Development Studio, EasyTitle6, EasyTitle6.exe. As usual, you can run the file from any folder by using its absolute path. If you run EasyTitle6.exe without any arguments, the program will just open normally. You can also add the EasyTitle6 folder to your path environment variable so that you can run the program by just typing EasyTitle6 without specifying the full path. Check out the links in the description of this video for a tutorial on how to do that. You'll need to start a new command prompt window for the changes to take effect. Let's set things up for our first audio analysis from the command line. You might find it easier to put everything in a separate folder, as we have done here. In addition to your video file, you'll also need a configuration file, which can have any name. It's just a text file. This one is called config.txt because it makes it easier to open directly on Notepad. There are two ways to set up this configuration file. One if you want to do the audio analysis for the whole video, and another if you want to do it for sections of the video. First, let's see how it works for the whole video. In order to do the audio analysis for the entire video, your config file needs at least 3 lines. The first is the analysis section between square brackets. The second is auto-analyze wallet ID, followed by an equals sign and a valid wallet ID code with enough credits. The third is auto-analyze rec lang, followed by an equals sign and the language code for the original audio. You can find a list of supported language codes in the link in the description of this video. Make sure the spelling of these fields is exact. Optionally, you can also specify a path for a log file, indicating a file where EasyTitles will write a log of the audio analysis process. This path can be relative or absolute. Note that you can also add comments to this file. Just start a line with a semicolon, and anything after it will be ignored. Now we're ready to do our first audio analysis from the command line. And here's a tip for you. To start the command prompt directly from a folder, just open the folder in Windows Explorer. Then click here on the path bar and type cmd. We see here that we are in the correct folder. I'll type dir and enter, just to list the contents of the folder and make sure I'm in the right place. Here are the video and the config file. We're good. First, we type the path to the EasyTitle6.exe file. If you didn't add it to the Windows path, you'll need to type the full path like this. Remember that you can use Tab to autocomplete. If you did add the EasyTitles folder to the Windows path, you can type just EasyTitle6. Then we type 2 arguments. The first is the video file, that's -o equals, and the path to the video file, no spaces in between. Since we're already in the right folder, I'll just start typing the name of the file and then Tab to autocomplete. The second argument is the config file, that's -AA equals, and the name of the file, which we've named config.txt. Then we hit enter. Now EasyTitles shows us this window with the progress of the audio analysis. You'll notice it didn't ask us for confirmation. The credits have been deducted automatically from the wallet, so it's always important to double-check the wallet ID, the language, and the video file to avoid any unfortunate mistakes. Now let's open the video file in Easy Titles. We see the green ribbon indicating that the audio analysis was successful. We can also open the video directly from the command line. Just use the -O argument without the -AA. As we mentioned before, we also have the option of transcribing just a section of a video, or maybe a few different sections, maybe in different languages. Before we do that, though, a word of warning. For the purposes of the command line audio analysis, we cannot set a custom start timecode. That means that one of two things will happen. If the video file has an embedded timecode in its metadata, Easy Titles will use that timecode. Otherwise, Easy Titles will use the timecode specified in Edit Performance Default Video Start Timecode. In other words, even if your video has a specific burned-in timecode, which you normally are able to set when you edit subtitles, when performing the command line audio analysis, it will be ignored unless it's in the video metadata as well. A quick way to check this is to open the video on Easy Titles and see if Easy Titles sets the start timecode automatically or if it uses the default timecode from the preferences. The next step is to check your project settings to make sure you're using the desired timecode standard, especially if your video is in 29.97 or 59.94 frames per second. You'll have the opportunity to specify that in the config file as well. Once everything is sorted out, you can then use Easy Titles to find the exact timecodes of the sections you want to process. Suppose we have a list of sections of a video that we want to perform the audio analysis on. Let's edit the config file to make that happen. As before, we need the analysis section and the Auto Analyze Wallet ID. This time, we won't specify the language here because we'll set the language individually for each section. As before, we can set a path for the log file. Finally, we can also set the timecode format for the video using the TC standard key. This can be 24, 25, 30df, 30, 50, 48, 60df, 60. Please note that 30 means 30 non-drop frame, and 30df means 30 drop frame. The same goes for 60 and 60df. If the timecode standard is not set, Easy Titles will choose the default timecode standard for the frame rate. For example, for a 23.976 FPS video, the 24 FPS standard will be chosen. In this situation, if Easy Titles has a choice between drop frame or non-drop frame, it will choose drop frame unless the config file is set otherwise. After that, for each part of the video we want to transcribe, we create a new section with square brackets called AA config section, followed by a sequential number 1, 2, 3, and so on. Make sure the spelling here is exact with the correct uppercase and lowercase letters, because any mistakes will cause the section to be skipped. Each section requires 3 fields, and they're all mandatory: language, start TC, and end TC. The language must be specified for each section, even if it's the same for the entire video. Even if you set the Auto Analyze reclang in the analysis section, it will be ignored if there are sections present. Start TC can be a timecode in the appropriate format, or simply start of video if that is the case. End TC can be a timecode as well, or end of video. Make sure the timecodes don't overlap. If the end TC of one section is the same as the start TC of the next, change them so that they're 1 frame apart. Let's run the command and check our results. We see that the sections have been analyzed with the appropriate languages. One last thing we'd like to point out is that command line audio analysis allows you to leverage Windows batch files to transcribe many videos at once. For example, you might have a situation like this. where you have multiple reels of the same movie. We can set up a single config file for all of the reels, since we'll be performing the audio analysis on the entire file and in the same language. Then we can create a .mat file with all the commands to run the audio analysis on each video, or we can use the 4 files commands to do it in one line, as shown here.